add value to your business, or do you want to just be this administrative person?
And often, if you look at your talent team and the caliber of talent in your company, they correlate.
You could hire the best person for the job if they were in your candidate pool.
All these individual employees, one by one, together, their voices all come together to articulate the culture of the company.
This is hiring.
Hiring on all cylinders.
Hello again, podcast land. Rob Stevenson once more for Hiring on All Cylinders, coming to you from the most salubrious, beautiful confines of Fidelity headquarters in Boston, Massachusetts. I am particularly thrilled for this episode. You'll understand why in just a moment. I am joined again by our very own Jill Woody, VP of Talent and Operations. Jill, how are you?
I'm great, Rob. How are you?
So good. Long day of podcasting, my favorite thing to do, and we're going to cap it off in some style here. I am joined by the executive editor of Harvard Business Review. Ever heard of it? You got something interesting to say about the workplace. You got to go through her. Melinda Merino is her name. Melinda, so great to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
I have so many things I want to ask you. Right off the bat, though, I'm really curious. You see a massive amount of material come through your desk about what current companies are working on, the state of the industry. What is it that kind of catches your eye and you're like, okay, this is important. We need to cover this?
That is a great question. And, if we had a crystal ball where we could predict what was going to be the next new thing, we would all be, very well off.
Right.
But there is no crystal ball. So we really rely on a lot of customer research and data. We've gotten really sophisticated in our analytics and, how we collect data about what our customers are reading, what they want to read, what topics are important to them, what's keeping them up at night. And we really use that to guide our acquisitions. But having said that, we get a lot of stuff over the transom that we just don't have enough hours in a day to look at all the material that comes over. So we really rely on our editors. We have such a wonderful staff of about 12 editors, and we all specialize in a beat. And so we all kind of really know who the experts are, who the key thought leaders are, and we try to stay on top of things. And so we really do rely on the editors to proactively go out there and, be involved in the important conversations going on in the world, whether it's a conference, whether it's, something Jeff Immelt and Beth Comstock are doing at GE, whatever it is, we really rely on our editors to be involved, to be central in those conversations. And frankly, that's how most of the ideas that we publish actually get generated.
So it's a combination of the data about what your readers are kind of interested in, and then your team makes, editorial decisions.
Yep,
okay, this is
absolutely.
what we're going to go from here.
Yep.
So what are some of those trends in readership, I guess?
Well, I was going to start talking about some of the trends and, the whole kind of, this is going to be like a tour through the mind of an HBR editor. So I apologize right off the bat for being completely boring and wonky. But, as editors at HBR, our job is to be on top of these areas, these beats that we cover, and to be on the lookout for the next new thing all the time. And for me, I cover strategy and innovation and organization and HR and talent management. Anything having to do with people and strategy is kind of my beat. And, it seems like the disruption of work, the future of work, the future of the organization, these are really big themes right now. And, a lot of people are worried about what work is going to look like, what the workplace is going to look like in the future. What's it going to look like when the robots come? How are people going to get the skills and capabilities they need to stay relevant in a future where jobs might look very different than they do right now, and where organizations need new skill sets to stay competitive? And that is going to be something happening, on a very fast cycle basis going forward. So the three kind of big trends I'm seeing right now are, first of all, of course, artificial intelligence and machine learning. And, HBR has just published a lot, and especially on hbr.org, there's just a slew of articles on this topic. We're trying to understand it just as our readers are trying to understand it. And I myself, I've done a couple really cool pieces that I just wanted to mention briefly with some thought leaders from Willis Towers Watson. They're experts in managing risk and human capital. And the authors are Ravin Jesuthasan, George Zarkadakis, and Tracy Malcolm. And the reason I like this piece that they did is because they give a really simple framework that is very executive friendly that anyone can understand. So they say that we are at a tipping point in how and where work gets done. So managers are already really good at and really accustomed to virtual work and managing remote work. I mean, as challenging as that is, managers really have that under their belt. They know how to do that. But, now we're facing automation technology that is coming down the pike, and it's so new. Leaders don't really know which automation technologies to apply to which parts of their business. And, most leaders are not that knowledgeable about the nitty-gritty of the technology. So, and these are huge investments that cost a lot of money. So what I like about what Ravin and his colleagues did was they have this framework. So even if you're just starting out and you don't know anything about the automation technologies, this little framework helps you kind of get a lay of the land and put the pieces of the puzzle together so you can see where in your organization you need to be doing what. So I am not an expert on technology here. I'm the last person who should be talking about this and explaining it. But if you just go to hbr.org and start searching under automation technology, you'll find it. But just quickly, the 3 buckets are robotic process automation. Now that's going to apply to the simple tasks. So the high volume, low complexity, routine stuff. The next level up is cognitive automation, and that is the stuff you've been hearing, recognition, intelligence, machine learning. This is the more complex work, the non-routine work. Creative tasks. A lot of thought leaders think creativity is still the domain of human beings. Well, it is, but it's coming in machines. So we have to be prepared for that, even decision making. And then the next level beyond that is social robotics, which, these systems are mobile, programmable, they can adapt to new tasks. This is the kind of AI that can actually collaborate with humans and learn from human interaction. So anyway, that's kind of the big trend that we're all trying to get our minds around and our readers are really super interested in. And another one is, not surprisingly, given all the emphasis on new skills and capabilities that companies need to drive their businesses, learning and development. And specifically, I'm seeing a lot about agile learning and development. And what I mean by that, what's at just enough, just in time, and just me. So speed, flexibility, and innovation. And, learning, training is no longer in the classroom. Organizations are not sending people to a 2.5-day offsite. They're not sending people, anywhere. Learning is happening on the job, and it happens in teams, and it happens on platforms. Where training can be delivered anytime, any place, and at the user's convenience. So again, a lot is going on there. And, as editors, we're always on the lookout for the latest in technology-supported peer learning, team-based learning, and even companies are now starting to bring customers into the learning process so that learning is directly relevant to the customer's opportunities and challenges. So finally, I know I'm babbling on forever here. I should let you guys talk, but I couldn't leave the topic of trends without mentioning, this debate that's been going on now for a couple of years on performance evaluation. This has been the biggest thing to happen in HR in years, and it's in the news, it's in the business press all the time. Something by the end of 2015, it was something like at least 30 companies of the Fortune 500 had totally given up performance ratings. And this is huge. And starting as far back as 10 years ago, obviously starting mostly in the tech industry, companies gave up formal performance ratings and reviews. So Adobe, Juniper Systems, Dell, Microsoft, IBM, and others. And then it kind of worked its way into the real human capital intensive industries and talent driven industries like professional services. So then you had Deloitte and Accenture and PwC giving up performance ratings. And now you have companies in every industry, Medtronic, Gap, even GE, who, they are famous for their forced ranking system developed under Jack Welch, which every company on the planet emulated. They've given it up too. So people are obviously giving it up because it's anachronistic. It takes too much time. Companies can't do a 1-year plan anymore, let alone a 5-year plan. So it takes too much time, too much money. Everyone hates it. Employees hate it. Managers hate it. So it's being replaced with informal check-ins and kind of these ongoing goal setting and goal achieving feedback sessions. And at GE, for example, they call it FastWorks. And FastWorks, as you probably know, is an agile platform where there's frequent touch points for people to get feedback. And it's one of two things. It's real quick, and it's either continue or consider. It's either what you should keep doing or what you should change. And it's just ongoing. So that's really major. But the reason I bring this topic up is because the pendulum is starting to swing back. A lot of companies that have given up, performance ratings, whether we like them or not, companies need them because that's how you figure out compensation. So companies are starting to swing back. And, we just published a big article in the November issue by a couple of people at Facebook. It's called Let's Not Kill Performance Evaluations Just Yet. It's by Lori Gohler, who is the head of people at Facebook, and Janelle Gale, who is the head of HR business partners at Facebook. And Adam Grant is the third author on that piece. And what's really kind of eye-opening about that is 87% of the employees at Facebook wanted to be rated and did not want performance ratings and evaluations to go away. So Facebook has figured out how to not eliminate, but mitigate all the biases, how to make it more transparent, and importantly, how to make them more about developing people and not just about looking in the rearview mirror at past performance. So Facebook is really trying to build that culture of curiosity and that culture of, perpetual learning and a culture of growth, not just accountability. And they're actually using their rating systems to do that. So this is a big topic. I know it's really getting into the weeds, but I wanted to mention it because we are seeing, every day, every week, I must get, a handful of proposals on this topic. And it's because everybody's trying something different.
Right.
And so the dust is going to settle soon. I don't think we're going to go back to the old way. I think there's going to be a third way, some middle way that still rewards performance and helps HR figure out compensation, as well as incentivize growth and development while obtaining that speed and flexibility that companies need to stay competitive. So those were kind of like the things that I'm like constantly thinking about, and I probably have at least a couple of proposals on my desk right now about all those topics. So top of mind.
Okay. So to get an HBR, we need to write an article about how AI is going to radically transform the performance review
reviews,
process.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there are people working on that problem as we speak.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot there.
I have a million questions. I'll let you go first, Jill.
Yeah. So, one thing I was thinking about is on this topic of AI, and you were saying people are worried about, are their jobs being eliminated? And you named some of the categories in this framework. The one that surprised me that you said was the creative jobs. Of course, I began to think of poor Rob over here and his job being eliminated.
All of us sitting at this table.
If a robot was doing a podcast, I would only ever listen to that just over and over again.
But I think most of us, when we think about the invasion of the bots and AI, we're thinking more about that first category that you described with the routine, the systematic process. So where are you seeing that the bots are going to come in on the creative side?
Haven't seen it yet, but we need to be thinking about that, and we need to be prepared for it. I know one of my former colleagues, Julia Kirby, wrote a book with an author. His name is Tom Davenport, and the book is called Only Humans Need Apply. And it was a very optimistic view about, here's the stuff humans can do, but machines could never. But I think what I've learned from some of the people that I've been talking with at Boston Consulting Group, for example, they say that, okay, machines are going to do that creative stuff, but what they can't do, they can't see something novel. So machines can respond to what they're given, and they can learn based on what they're given, but they can't like pick out something that's an anomaly or something that's novel. And that's what people are going to have to be able to do, is like that novelty factor. And so
we're still safe, Rob.
Yeah,
we're still safe for a little while, but that's something we should all be thinking about.
Context keeps coming up as one of the last gaps in like AI versus human intelligence, like the ability to tell the difference between something warm versus something creepy, or something in your example, like an anomaly, something like dismissed, like it can be dismissed, or something that's truly the start of a brilliant idea.
Right.
So we'll get there soon, but
right. There's going to be an element of human judgment that can't ever be replicated, I hope. But that's, when we're talking to our children about what they should be doing and what they should be studying, I mean, I think we have to be talking about those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was some stat earlier, speaking of the kids, in one of the presentations that, in Generation Z, so the generation that is born now through about graduating college, 65% of them will hold jobs that don't even exist today.
Right.
So that sort of speaks to that future that's a little bit unknown and a little bit scary for many, but inevitable.
Right.
I wanted to follow up a little bit in light of recent events.
Yeah.
Obviously, data and analytics, huge part of what you cover at HBR. There was a huge kind of swing and a miss on the part of the pollsters. Predicted an overwhelming victory for Hillary Clinton. Didn't turn out that way. So in light of that, is there a calibration that needs to take place? What is the future of this area, this important area, in monitoring the workplace, now that we've seen that there is this possibility for it to get it so wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we've been publishing a lot on analytics for at least 10 years, books, articles, digital content, you name it. And just about everything we publish, we have that disclaimer that it depends on the data. You're only as good as your data.
Right.
And I think what we saw is, a colossal failure of data collection. And, no amount of analysis or no amount of sophisticated algorithms or software is going to compensate for bad data. So having said that, analytics continues to be one of the really big topics that our readers just cannot get enough of. They are so hungry for it. And, we see this groundswell sweeping through organizations. And, it's not only the business intelligence people, it's not just the finance people, it's every function in the organization is being transformed. Marketing, obviously, marketing is undergoing huge transformation. We just published a book called The Analytical Marketer by Adele Sweetwood about that. HR is just going to go through massive changes because of analytics and data and product development. So every person in the organization needs to be comfortable with and needs to be conversant with data. You don't have to know how to do a regression analysis. You don't have to know how to do all the latest statistical software packages, but you have to be conversant and you have to be comfortable with it. And, I think that's a huge message, again, for anyone who's thinking about the future and the jobs of the future. You've got to be thinking about this. And, it's funny, I was reflecting that it was actually 10 years ago that we first published one of our best-selling books called Competing on Analytics by Tom Davenport and Jeannie Harris. And, I could probably publish a book with that title for every single function in the organization. So, and I probably will end up doing that probably at some point. But it's again, just readers have just such an insatiable appetite for it. So
it seems like there's a bit of a gulf between the desire for analytics and then the ability to implement any change that resulted from your studying of it.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the culture of the organization. I mean, I think, there's, on the one side, experience and intuition and, we've seen this before. And yeah, the data says that, but we know what's happening. And I think there's a lot of, just how kind of the non-quants speak to the quants and kind of how they don't even speak the same language. So I think that really gets in the way of a lot of execution of, okay, here's what the data is saying. How do we execute on this? And it's just, again, it's getting everybody in the organization conversant with analytics. It's what we've been hearing.
Seems like there's a business opportunity there too.
Yeah.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Go to Intello.com. Melinda, this has been amazing. I could keep listening to you talk about this all night, but I know you have a panel to moderate, and I want to let you get down and check that out. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.